Welcome you all to this lecture video of Biocontrol System. Myself Mohanavalli, working as an assistant professor in Erodu Sengundar Engineering College, Department of Biomedical Engineering. So in this video we are going to see about the physiological control system. So before enter into the topic, first we have to know about what is meant by control system. So the control system is nothing but we are going to it consists of two or more components connected together to get the desired output. So when we are designing an any system means we know what it is input and what it is output. So for obtaining the desired output we are going to interconnect two or more components, that is called as the control system, which is nothing but you are going to control the sum of the operation to produce the desired output. So physiological control system means which is nothing but, so physiological means our human body. So we are going to design a system for controlling some of the physiological parameters. So it is called as the physiological control system. So first we see about the brief history of physiological control system. So the concept of physiological regulation dates back to ancient Greece, where the human body was considered a small replica of the universe. So around 500 BC, our human body was considered as a replica of our universe, which is nothing but a compared to our world. Then regulatory systems were defined in more precise term by French physiologist Claude Bernard in 19th century. So regulatory systems, which is going to, our human system is going to regulate some of the parameters according to the environment such as temperature, pressure, etc. Then Harvard's physiologist Walter Cannon coined the word homeostasis to describe the maintenance of relatively constant physiological condition. So the homeostasis is main important for all the human beings, because homeostasis means we are going to maintain the same constant value of the physiological system. For example, if normal heart rate is 72 means whatever the condition is changed at last after few minutes or after few times, okay, after that few times our body is again returned back to the normal condition only. So it is called as the homeostasis, which is nothing but maintaining the relative constant of the physiological conditions. So the Weiner in 1940 explored the notion of feedback to a greater level of detail. So the most of the physiological systems are non-linear. So he laid a foundation for modeling the non-linear dynamics. So he coined the term word called the cybernetics. So regulatory systems is also important and homeostasis is also important. But after this, feedback is also more important for any system, because if it doesn't get any desired output, okay, then we use the feedback to get that desired output. Likewise, when human body, some of the parameters, for example heart rate, blood pressure, or any other things, for example if you are taking a fever means, if temperature rise means we will give some we will take some of the tablets, okay, it acts as like a feedback, okay, then we are again go back to the normal condition. So feedback is mainly helpful to get the desired output. So the Weiner coined the term feedback. Why mainly he coined the term feedback means most of the physiological systems are non-linear system, because if one person in Tamil Nadu means he can adapt to any temperature. If the person lives in Tamil Nadu went to the Ladakh region, like that means his or her body cannot able to adapt that Ladakh temperature. So for that the non-linear systems are available, okay. So most of the physiological systems are non-linear, based on it always doesn't gives these linear outputs. According to the environmental conditions, it will also gives the non-linear output. For reducing that non-linear dynamics or modeling of that non-linear dynamics, feedbacks is plays a major role in this. So the Weiner coined the term feedback. Next example of a open loop system. So before we are going to see about the physiological system, first we have to know about what is open loop and closed loop system. So open loop system means whatever input we give, it gets the desired output. Okay, so closed loop system means it consists of a feedback which helps to, if the desired output is not getting, means we can use the feedback to get the desired output, which is nothing but feedback act as a corrective measures to get the desired output. So in this, just take a temperature control system as an example of the open loop system. Okay, in this AC supply, now first we have to given some of the AC supply, it may be some of the voltage value given to the relay control circuit. So based upon the relay electric control circuit, the output of the relay control circuit is given as an input to electric furnace. How much voltage generated in relay control circuit, based upon this only our furnace will heat and the heat will be produced. Here the electric furnace act as a plant which is nothing but as processor. So whatever for which for something, if you are designing a system, means you have to perform some of the process inside the system, correct? So that process is called as a plant. Okay, so here the electric furnace act as a plant. Okay, after getting specified heat, now we have to convert it into a to D converter, because the heat, because based upon the voltage source only the heat is produced, that output signal is always in an analog form. First we have to convert into a digital form. So for that, here it is used a to D converter. Okay, after that it is interfaced with the LCD display. Okay, digital display for viewing the results. Okay, they are interfacing the A to D converter with the digital display. So here we give input as an AC supply and get the temperature value in digital terms as an output. There is no any feedback present. If any room temperature, if you are designing a system inside the room, means if the room temperature is not normal condition, means based upon the room condition also our desired output will change. Okay, so the open loop system cannot always give a desired output. If any external disturbances added to it, the total system will be very is not useful for further use. It will be a wasteful one only. Okay, next example of a closed loop control system for temperature, same temperature control system. It is same as at a open loop control system, but here it consists of a feedback. Okay, so here same AC supply is given to the relay control circuit. Based upon the output voltage of relay control circuit, the electric furnace is heated, which is nothing but we are getting the temperature in the form of the analog signal. That analog signal is converted into the digital with the help of the A to D converter. Then we are interfacing that A to D converter result with the digital display or some of the controller. Okay, here we are using the controller. Okay, so the digital control circuit or a microprocessor, we can use that in place of controller. We can use whether the digital control circuit or a microprocessor. Okay, now after converting A to D analog to digital value, it is interfaced with the controller, which is nothing but it acts like a display. Then it compares the controller our input with the reference input, which is nothing but the desired temperature what we want. Okay, if the reference input and the controller output is not same, means again the digital value, okay, the digital value in the controller, okay, is converted into an analog with the help of a D to A converter, and then we are going to amplify it, which is nothing but using the amplifier. Then it can be given as an input to further relay control circuit. Here the D to A converter and the amplifier act as a feedback for getting the desired temperature. For example, we are going to design a system of temperature control system for temperature of 30 degrees Celsius. If in controller, okay, which is nothing but displaying circuit, it shows an temperature as a 25 degrees Celsius, but our desired temperature is 30 degrees Celsius. Now heat compares with 25 with 30. Okay, 5 is very less, 5 degrees Celsius is very is not there. Okay, the difference between these two desired and the actual is 5 degrees Celsius. Now we have to obtain that 5 degrees Celsius. For that, again that digital 25 degrees Celsius is converted into an analog value, and it is further amplified up to 30 degree, because our desired temperature is 30 degree, so it is further amplified for getting the 30 degrees Celsius. That amplified value is again given as an input to the relay control circuit. So the closed loop system consists of feedback. If any disturbances is added to the system, means with the help of feedback we can minimize it. Next, so the simple physiological example of open loop and closed loop. So the thermoregulatory control in poikilothermic animals. So the poikilothermic animals is nothing but based upon the temperature, the animals will maintain it. So the cold-blooded animals thermocontrol is an open loop control, while the closed loop control is the warm-blooded animals. We are warm-blooded animals because according to the temperature, our body parameters will vary. So we are the homeothermic. Some of the cold-blooded animals are open loop control. So homeostasis is nothing but maintenance of the relative constant of physiological conditions. So as I already said, we have to. So the pros and cons of the open loop control system. So open loop control is simple and economical, and it is easy to construct, and on or off condition is available. But its disadvantage are it is inaccurate and unreliable, because if external disturbance is added, the accurate results we can't able to get. So after also we can't able to modify it. So the changes in the output due to external disturbances are not corrected automatically. These are the pros and cons of the open loop control system. Next, pros and cons of the closed loop controls. So accurate even in the presence of non-linearity and external disturbances. If any external disturbances or noises are added to it, also we can able to get the accurate result with the help of the feedback. Its disadvantages are it is complex, and it requires it is costlier, and it is unstable due to feedback involved. So the feedback may reduce the overall gain of the system. So if we are using the feedback, means the gain of the system will be affected. So these are the pros and cons of the closed loop control system. So before we are going to say about the physiological control system, first we have to know about the neurons, because the neurons plays a major role in taking the informations from our sensory organs to the brain. So with the help of the neurons only all our bodies are operated. Okay, so neurons consist of nucleus, dendrite, soma, Schwann cell, rods of Ranvier, myelin sheath, and axons. Okay, so the dendrites, which is nothing but it acts as an input signal. So the information from other neuron is getted through the dendrites only. Okay, and the axons, it is nothing but a nerve terminal. Okay, it sends the information to other neurons. Okay, so the axon of one neuron and dendrites of another neuron is connected, and the information passes from first neuron to second neuron through a gap called the synapses. Okay, so the axon and dendrites are connected. That gap is known as the synapses. So synapses plays a major role in transmitting the informations from one neuron to another neuron. So in neuron, it consists of three types of neurons. One is sensory neurons, motor neurons, and intent neurons. So sensory neurons means it taken information from the sensory organs, and motor neurons means it takes the information from the brain. It is called as the motor neurons. And intent neuron means it is the mixture of the both sensory neuron and motor neurons. So first we are going to see about physiological control system analysis and its example. Okay, so in this example we just tap a patellar tendon, which is nothing but an present near the kneecap. Okay, patella, it is act as one of the bone also, and it also a patellar tendon. Okay, so ligaments means bone to bone, and tendon means muscle to bone attachment. Okay, so if you are tapping the patellar tendon, then the muscle spindle length will increased. Okay, so depending upon the increase in length of the muscle spindle, the afferent neural frequency will change, and the afferent neurons take this information to the spinal cord. So in the spinal cord these informations are processed, and after processed information, the processed information is carried returned back to the same muscles with the help of the efferent nerve fibers. So the processed information will now based upon that information, now we can able to extend our leg. Okay, so here the stimulus, which is nothing but we are going to tap it. So based upon this there will be a stretch of muscle spine, and afferent nerve fibers carry that change in afferent neural frequency to the spinal cord, which is act like a reflex center, and from the reflex center the efferent neural fibers carry the more informations processed in the spinal cord, and it is given back to the muscles. Okay, now the muscles will expand or contract based upon that. Okay, so in this in this left image you can see patellar, which is nothing but kneecap. Tendon means bone to muscle attachments. Here the patellar tendon is there. Okay, in that patellar tendon only you are going to tap it. Okay, so based upon the tap the muscle spindle is varied, and the voluntary action of straightening of the leg will happen. So one of the simplest and most fundamental of all physiological control system is the muscle stretch reflex. Okay, so this kind of reflex is called as the knee jerk. Okay, suddenly if you are tapping means it is a jerk reaction. Okay, it is also called as the knee jerk. It is used in routine medical examination as an assessment of the state of the nervous system. If our nervous system is working properly or not, for that we are going to assess that with the help of the treatment knee jerk. Okay, a short tap to the patellar tendon in the knee leads to an abrupt stretching of the extensor muscle in the thigh to which the tendon is attached. Okay, if you are going to tap the patellar tendon means there will be an stretching of the extensor muscles in the thigh to which the tendon is attached. Okay, so this activates the muscle spindle to stretch. So here the muscle spindle is also called as the stretch receptors. Okay, based upon the stretch receptors there is these neural impulses which encode information about the magnitude of the stretch. Okay, so the neural impulses now it decodes the information of the stretch, and it is sent along the afferent nerve fibers to the spinal cord. So here the afferent nerve fibers carry the information from the stretch muscle stretch, which is nothing but receptors. Okay, muscle spindle to the spinal cord. Since each afferent nerve synapses with one motor neuron in the spinal cord, so the motor neurons get activated, and in turn it sends the efferent neural impulses back to the same thigh muscles. Okay, so as I already said, the one neurons connected with other neurons with the help of the synapses. Correct. Here the afferent nerves, okay, synapses with the one motor neuron. Here the one motor neuron, which is nothing but the sensory motor neuron connected with one motor neuron in the spinal cord. Okay, now the motor neuron carries the processed information from the spinal cord and returns back to the same thigh muscles. Okay, so based upon the processed muscles the person can able to flexion or extend the leg. Okay, so this produces a contraction of the muscles that acts to straighten the lower leg. So based upon the information carried by the motor neurons via the efferent nerve fibers, it produces the contraction of the muscles that act to straighten the lower leg. Okay, so the first this and other stretch reflexes involves reflex arcs that are monosynaptics. It uses only one synapses, so it is called as a monosynaptic. Only two neurons and one synapses, because if two neurons are connected there will be a takes place of one synapse, because the synapses is between the axon of one neuron and dendrites of the another neuron. Okay, this is the one stretch reflex. Okay, so the one stretch reflex consists of a one monosynaptic. Okay, one monosynaptics, it consists of two neurons and the one synapses. So the other reflexes have at least one interneuron connecting the afferent and efferent pathways. Okay, so the other reflexes have at least one interneurons, which is nothing but it can able to have the more than one or two interneurons, which in that interneurons which connect the afferent and efferent pathways directly, so that reflexes can also happen. Okay, second, the closed loop regulation of muscle length is accomplished in a completely involuntary fashion, as the name reflexes. So whenever the tap is induced, we can involuntarily, we are going to straighten our leg, straighten our leg. Okay, so that is called as a involuntary function. This involuntary function is mainly based upon the reflex center, which is nothing but our spinal cord. So next, we going to see about the block diagram representation of the muscle stretch reflex. Okay, here tap induced stretch. Here first you have to going to induce the tap to the patellar tendon, which is connected to the thigh muscles also. Okay, here the tap induced is represented as a S, which is same as like a disturbances. Okay, so now the tap is induced to the thigh extensor muscle. Here the thigh extensor muscle act as a plant. Okay, and then when tap is induced, there will be a change in muscle splint, correct? So the next block is the muscle splint, which act as a feedback sensor. Okay, so the change in muscle spindle length is represented by Y. Okay, so based upon this change in muscle spindle, the afferent, there will be a change in afferent neural frequency Z. Okay, which is nothing but a feedback signal. This feedback signal is now carried to the reflex center, which is nothing but a spinal cord. Okay, here the spinal cord act as a controller. Okay, then where after the informations are decoded, okay, in the brain or processed in the brain or spinal cord, the output we get, it is a change in efferent neural frequency. So this change in efferent neural frequency is represented by U, and it is again given as an input to the thigh extensor measure. Based upon the change in efferent neural frequency, a person can able to strengthen their leg. Okay, so just to see, it consists of one plant, feedback sensor, control. That's all. So it is same as like a simple block diagram of the closed loop system. Okay, so it is a muscle stretch reflex. This diagram is mainly example of the closed loop control system, because it consists of a feedback. So the third important feature of the muscle stretch reflex is that it provides a good example of negative feedback in physiological control system. So the third important feature of muscle stretch reflex is it gives the more importance to the physiological control system. Okay, the thigh muscle now corresponds to the plantar control system. So the thigh muscles responses, which is nothing but output, will now depend upon the plantar controlled system. Okay, here the disturbance is some amount of initial stretch produced by the tap to the knee. Okay, so this produces a proportionate amount of stretch Y in the muscle spindles, which act as the feedback sensor. So the spindle then translate this mechanical quantity into an increase in neural traffic sent back to the reflex center in the spinal cord, which corresponds to our controller. In turn, the controller action is an increase in efferent neural traffic U directed back to the thigh muscles, which subsequently contracts in order to offset the initial stretch. Okay, so it is indeed a negative feedback system, since the external leads to a controller action that is aimed at reducing the effect of the disturbances. Why we are using the negative feedback system here? It is mainly used to remove the initial disturbances, because if disturbances is added to it, then the information will be lost and we can't able to get the desired output. So it is a simple example of the physiological control system, which is nothing but a muscle stretch reflex. So already we know in first 4 units we see about the engineering control system, and in last unit now we are going to see about the physiological control system. Okay, so the first point is the engineering control systems are designed to accomplish a defined task, and frequently the governing parameters would have been fine-tuned extensively so that the system will behave by its task in an optimal manner, least under the circumstances in which it is tested. So engineering control systems are designed to accomplish a defined task. So we can able to know what task is we are going to do and what are the components involved in it. So the precise manner we can able to know in detail about the engineer control system, and also the governing parameters. So which is nothing but the parameters which is involved, which is also it's an optimal manner. Okay, but in physiological control system are built for versatility and may be capable of serving several different functions. For example, versatility means there will be a lot of parameters involved, and these parameters are often changed based upon the different functions. For example, the primary purpose of a respiratory system is gaseous exchange, but the secondary important function is to facilitate the elimination of heat from the body. Okay, but here the respiration main aim is gas exchange, but its secondary important function is nothing but an elimination of the heat from the body. If you are going to design a respiratory system, means first you have to consider these 2 points and also many other points for designing an one of the physiological control system. Here the parameters are not defined here perfectly, and also it doesn't we doesn't know about what it is a defined task also. Okay, then second, engineering control system is synthesized by the designer. The characteristics of its various components are generally known. So engineer control system are mainly designed by an industrial designer. The characteristics of its various components are generally known. Okay, but in physiological control system usually consist of components that are unknown and are difficult to analyze. So physiological control system, first of all, it doesn't know what are the components involved, and if the components are if they are not if they are not knowing the components involved, means how they are going to design a system. Okay, so physiological control system that are unknown and difficult to analyze. So the engineer control system can be linear or non-linear, but physiological control systems are generally non-linear. Let's consider an important example of physiological control system as a kidney. Okay, when you are going to design a control system for kidney function, means so the kidney function may be mainly depends upon the blood pressure, temperature and amount of minerals present in the blood, because the kidney main function is the excretion. Okay, it removes the waste products. Correct. First we have to know about what amount of the minerals have to be present in our body, and if it is insufficient, means what will be happen. So we have to take an account of all these parameters to design a physiological control system. So one is interrelated and other some of the parameters are not interrelated. So it in physiological control system it consists of 2 or more components. Okay, but also we doesn't know whether these components are main for making the kidney control system. Okay, so first we doesn't know about the what are the components involved. If we know the components, means we can't able to identify the result based upon this. Okay, so the physiological systems are difficult and unknown and difficult to analyze, and it also the non-linear system. So let us consider same example of the muscle stretch reflex. Here tap is induced to the thigh extensor muscle. Okay, we already know whenever the tap is induced, there will be a change in an muscle spindle. Okay, if muscle spindle is changed, means the change in muscle spindle length is denoted by y. Okay, if muscle spindle is changed, which is nothing but a stretch receptors. Okay, if there is any change in stretch receptors, then afferent neural frequency will also be changed, which is represented by z. This change in afferent neural frequency is then given as an input to the reflex center, which is nothing but a spinal cord. Okay, now after the informations processed in the spinal cord, the motor neurons, which is nothing but there will be a change in the efferent neural frequency, which is denoted as a u. Okay, it is given as an input to the thigh extensor muscle. Okay, so this is the normal process, and it also consists of, if we already said for this muscle stretch reflex, only two neurons are involved and one synapse is involved, because one neuron is connected to another neuron with the help of the synapses. Correct, we already seen it. Okay, but in this, okay, the some of the systems are interrelated. Okay, so it is the pick of the contribution of interrelated systems to the muscle stretch reflex. Okay, now here one of the interneuron also present in this. So after the processed information from the spinal cord is also given as an input to the interneurons. Now this based upon, now the information getted by the interneurons, now it process that and given the given the extension of the thigh extensor muscles. Okay, so now the change in efferent neural frequency is also connected not only to one neuron, it may be connected to other extensor muscles. Okay, so this thigh, because here whenever the tap is induced, there will be an extensor muscle only activated, but in but the output from the interneuron is, which is nothing but a flexor. Okay, so the extensor minus thigh flexor muscle is acted. Why the thigh flexor muscle is reduced means, because it is mainly used to remove the disturbances which is happening to the normal process. Okay, for that only the thigh flexor muscle is removed from this. So there is an extensive degree of cross coupling or interaction among different physiological control system. So in previous diagram we saw about there will be only one plant, one controller and the one feedback sensor, but here many of them are present. Okay, so there is an extensive degree of cross coupling or interconnection among different physiological control systems. So as I already said, one if you are going to design any of the physiological parameter control system, means here it consists of many parameters. Those parameters one interrelated, or those parameters are not interrelated. Okay, there may be a cross coupling also. Okay, so the physiological control systems are maybe an extensive degree of cross coupling and the interactions. Okay, so the proper functioning, for example, let us take the proper function of cardiovascular system, which is nothing but our heart and the blood supply. Okay, for instance, to a larger extent it depends upon an interaction with the respiratory, renal, endocrine and other organ system, because with the help of the respiratory system only we can able to get the oxygenated blood. Based upon that oxygen only all our cells are functioning. Okay, so the functioning of the cardiovascular system, it's mainly depend upon these systems: respiratory, endocrine, other organ system and the renal, which is nothing but a kidney. Okay, first, some branches of the afferent nerves also synapses with the motor neurons that leads to the extensor muscle in the thigh that act synergistically with the primary muscles to strengthen their lower leg. So as I already said, some branches of the afferent nerves also synapses with the, which is nothing but connected. Okay, it connected with motor neurons that leads to the extensor muscles in the thigh. Okay, so which is synergistically which is nothing but at the same time it will with the primary muscle to straighten the lower leg. Okay, Secondly, other branches of the afferent nerve synapses with interneurons. So in diagram we see the first point which I have said is this block diagram, okay, same block diagram, and second now I am saying it is connected to the interneuron, okay. So the other branches of the afferent neural frequency is synapses with interneurons. In turn, the synapse with motor neurons that leads to the flexor or antagonist muscle. So antagonist muscles, which is nothing but whatever the extensor muscle is happened, it is straightly opposite to the this conditions, it is called as the antagonist muscles, okay. So secondly, synapses with motor neurons that leads to the flexor or antagonist muscles. However, here the interneurons induces a polarity change. The polarity change, which is nothing but a sign change, positive, negative, that is called as the polarity change. However, the interneurons introduce a polarity change in the signal. So if there is an increase in afferent neural frequency, produces an decrease in the efferent neural tract that is sent to the flexor muscles. If afferent neural frequency is increased, then there will be a reduction of the, okay, then there will be a reduction in the efferent neural fibers connected to the interneurons, okay, which is nothing but your flexor muscles, okay. So this has the effect of releasing the flexor muscle so that they do not counteract the activity of the extensor muscles, okay. So whenever the tap is induced, the muscle will be extensor muscle will be activated, okay. If interneurons are connected to it, means okay, it will alter the system performance, okay. So this mainly, okay, flexor muscles, there will be a decrease in efferent neural frequency that is sent to the flexor muscles. So this is mainly an effect of relaxing the flexor muscles so that they do not contract with what the voluntary action is happened. So next we are going to say about the adaptive characteristics of the muscle stretch reflex. So in this same is happened, which is nothing but a tap is induced, which is nothing but tap induced stretch, and external disturbance is applied to the thigh extensor muscles, and based upon this tap induced, there will be a change in muscle spindle, okay. So change in muscle spindle length is denoted by Y. Next, the because of the change in muscle spindle, there will be a change in the afferent neural frequency, he said. This will be given as an input to the reflex center spinal cord, okay. After the information processed in the spinal cord, there will be a change in efferent neural frequency U, and it will be given as an input to the thigh extensor muscle. So based upon this, so this will be given as an input to the thigh extensor muscle. So here there is also, because adaptive characteristics of the muscle stretch reflex, so based upon this, the high says sentence, which is nothing but a voluntary control, okay. So there will be a again some of the informations will be going to the higher center voluntary control also. So based upon this, there will be a change in alpha motor neuron activity that will be given to the summation of both change in efferent neural frequency and change in alpha motor neuron activity, okay. So these are getting summation, and it is given as an input to the thigh extensor muscle for making a person to perform the voluntary or involuntary motion, okay. So this change in alpha motor neuron is also connected to the muscle spindle through the change in gamma efferent neural frequency. So based upon this alpha motor neuron, there will be a change in gamma efferent frequency, okay. So totally the motor neurons is of two types. One is alpha motor neuron, another one is gamma motor neuron, okay. So the alpha motor neuron is mainly responsible for making the muscles to stretch, which is nothing but it is mainly useful for the contraction of the muscles. But gamma motor neuron is also based upon the contraction of the muscles, but when the So motor neurons are mainly responsible for the muscles contraction of the muscles, but it is due to the external force applied. Okay, so the alpha motor neuron is voluntary motion and gamma motor neuron is based upon the external potentials disturbances applied. Based upon this, the gamma efferent frequency will change. So this point is nothing but a physiological control systems are generally adaptive in nature. So whatever it is changed, it will adapt to that. Okay, it is known as the adaptive. Okay, this means that the system may be able to offset any change in output not only through feedback but also by allowing the controller or plant characteristics to change. So we already know with the help of feedback we can able to get the desired output, correct? But without the help of feedback also we can able to change the characteristics of the output by making the modification in the controller or the plant characteristics. Okay, so here also we are taking the muscle stretch reflex. Okay, while this reflex plays a protective role in regulating muscle stretch, it also can hinder the effects of voluntary control of the muscles involved. So the reflex, okay, which is nothing but so the signals processed in the spinal cord reflex center, after that we getting a reflex response. Okay, so the reflex plays a protective role in regulating the muscle stretch, correct? So some of the parameters can able to hinder, which is nothing but stop the effects of the voluntary controls that is happen to the muscles. For instance, just to take an example, if one voluntarily flexed the knee, okay, the stretch reflex, if kept unchanged, would come into play and this would produce effects that oppose the intended movement. But the thigh extensor is an intended movement, but when one person voluntarily flexed the knee, okay, if the stretch reflex is not changed yet, means we can able to do this adaptive nature to correct it. Okay, so when the higher centers send signals down the alpha motor neurons to elicit the contraction of the flexor muscle and the relaxation of the extensor muscles, the signals are sent simultaneously down the efferent gamma nerves that innervate the muscle spindles. Okay, so there will be an higher centers. Okay, from that higher centers the alpha motor neurons is able to contract of the is helpful for the contraction of the flexor muscles and the relaxation of the extensor muscles, because already we know there will be a two centers are there. One is reflex center, another one is highest centers. Okay, based upon the reflex centers the thigh muscle is extended. Okay, but the information from the highest centers can be useful for making the flexion of the muscles. Okay, so based upon the information from the highest centers, the muscle will flex, so it will make the extension of the muscles to be relaxed. So only they said the down the alpha motor neurons to elicit the contraction of the flexor muscles and the relaxation of the extensor muscles. Okay, so these signals are sent simultaneously down the efferent gamma nerves that innervate the muscle spindles. Okay, these gamma signals produce in effect of resetting the operation of the length of the muscle spindles, so that the voluntarily induced stretch in the extensor muscles is no longer detected by the spindles. So now the higher center's main aim is to to contract the flexor muscles. Okay, so by using that information, it will be carried down via the gamma nerves to the muscle spindle. Okay, so based upon the signals from the muscle spindles, okay, gamma signals from the muscles, based on the gamma signals from the higher centers to the muscle spindles, there will be a change in length of the muscle spindles. Okay, so that voluntarily induced stretch in the extensor muscle is now no longer available by the spindles. Okay, so thus by this clears adaptive arrangement, the muscle stretch reflex is basically neutralized, because already we know the output will be an extra contraction of the extensor muscles when the signals from the higher extensor muscles making the output to be contract of, so make the contraction of the extensor muscles. So by volunteer movements also, a physiological system can able to adapt to that input, not only the same output. So physiological system has a cross coupling, and its properties, some of the properties are, some of the parameters are involved in it. So that parameters can also one to one interlinked, or it may not be linked. Okay, so there are many parameters involved for the design of the single physiological control system, and it also adaptive in nature. So based on the one parameter, if it is changed, then the other parameters results will be not available there when one of the new parameter results is there. So it is also way adaptive in nature. Thank you.